Welcome to Study Faith with AI, where we use the power of AI to help you explore the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
I'm Meg Jensen.
And I'm Paul Carter.
And we're Google AIs. Whether you're a lifelong member or just starting to learn about the church, we're here to dive deep into its history, beliefs, and culture.
So if you're ready to learn, you're in the right place.
That's right.
Let's get started. All right, get ready, because we're diving deep into some Book of Mormon theories, and this one's a doozy. You ready?
Oh, I'm always up for a good Book of Mormon deep dive. Lay it on me.
Okay, so have you heard of this idea that maybe, just maybe, the Book of Mosiah was the first part Joseph Smith dictated? Not First Nephi, like everyone usually thinks.
Oh, yeah, the Mosiah Priority theory, right.
Yeah.
That's Brent Metcalfe's work, isn't it? Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it really throws a wrench into how we usually see the Book of Mormon coming together.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. What if those lost 116 pages, the ones Joseph translated first? Well, what if losing them forced him to kind of restart and rethink the whole narrative?
That's a huge what if.
Yeah.
Okay, so full disclosure. We're not here to tell you what to believe. We're just laying out the evidence and letting you, our awesome listeners, make up your own minds.
Couldn't agree more. But I will say there are some pretty wild inconsistencies that pop up when you look at the Book of Mormon through this Mosiah Priority lens.
No kidding. Like the whole timeline of Christ's birth.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
In First Nephi, you've got Lehi, Nephi, even an angel, all saying loud and clear, Jesus will be born 600 years after we leave Jerusalem. Straight up, no arguments.
Right. But then,
we get to parts like Mosiah, Alma. It's like they're in a totally different time zone.
like they missed the 600-year memo, right?
Exactly. King Benjamin's all, oh, Christ is coming and it won't be long now. Alma's hoping he'll even see Christ in his lifetime.
Yeah, and that's where Metcalfe's like, hold up a second. If these guys supposedly had those small plates like the Book of Mormon says, shouldn't they have known about that super specific prophecy, the 600 years?
Seriously. Seems like a big detail to just not miss.
And that's why he's proposing that maybe, just maybe, these sections were written before Joseph Smith even dictated First Nephi, where that prophecy first shows up.
Well, hold on. Are we saying Joseph Smith kind of retconned the timeline as he went?
Well, it's a theory. Metcalfe even uses this fancy term, vaticinium ex eventu, which basically means prophecy after the fact. Like, the story might have been molded by the order it was dictated in, not by some set timeline.
Wow, so like fitting the story to the timeline, not the other way around.
Exactly. And that raises some huge questions about, like, the whole prophetic nature of the Book of Mormon, doesn't it?
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get too lost in timelines and prophecies, let's switch gears to something, well, a bit more down to earth.
Down to earth.
Well, word usage, at least. Specifically, how Metcalfe analyzed how Joseph Smith used the words therefore and wherefore.
Ah, yes, the linguistic detective work. This is where it gets fun. Metcalfe really dug deep, meticulously tracking these seemingly small, insignificant words.
And what do you find? Spill the tea.
Get this. Early on, Joseph loved therefore. But as he kept dictating, he almost totally switched to wherefore.
Interesting.
But it gets even more interesting. This pattern isn't just in the Book of Mormon. It's in Joseph Smith's other writings from that time, too. His personal revelations, even his Bible translation.
Whoa, so it's consistent across all his work. That's a pretty strong clue. Makes you wonder if it's really just translation or if Joseph Smith's style is kind of bleeding through, you know.
Right. And that leads Metcalfe to say, maybe Joseph Smith wasn't just a translator. Maybe he was more of an author.
Okay, I get where he's coming from. But wouldn't someone's writing style naturally change over time, even if they were just translating?
Good point. And Metcalfe actually addresses that. He says, the way this shift happens so consistently and lining up with the Mosiah priority order makes it way more likely that it's an intentional choice, not just random stylistic drift.
Okay, I'm following you.
Yeah.
But what about those biblical passages that pop up in the Book of Mormon? They're like super close to the King James Version, right down to the italics and everything.
Right, and this is where things get tricky. Some folks say Joseph Smith just memorized those passages and then kind of inserted them.
Memorized italics. Come on, who does that?
That's what Metcalfe's saying. He thinks it's more likely that Joseph actually had a King James Bible right there while he was translating, not just pulling from memory, but actually looking at the text.
So maybe the loss of those 116 pages forced him to rely more on his memory of the Bible. which is why we have some of those inconsistencies Metcalfe talks about.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what about the name Jesus Christ? In 1st Nephi, Lehi gets this revelation about the name, but then in 2nd Nephi, Jacob's like, hey, an angel told me the name too. Why another revelation if they already knew?
It's a head-scratcher for sure, but it gets even weirder when you look at the 1837 Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith actually changed it.
He did. How so?
He swapped Jesus Christ with Messiah in that 1st Nephi passage. Trying to smooth things over, maybe?
Like a continuity error, and he had to fix it.
That's exactly what Metcalfe's highlighting. It's more evidence that the order things were dictated in might have really shaped the story we have now.
Wow. It makes you think, does this raise even bigger questions about revelation in the Book of Mormon?
Big questions indeed. So we're really digging into this idea of Mosiah maybe being the first part of the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith dictated the Mosiah Priority, as it's called. And as we've seen, it kind of makes you look at things a little differently.
It definitely throws some curveballs into how we usually think about the Book of Mormon coming together.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, we're not saying this theory, throws divine inspiration out the window.
Not at all. There are plenty of folks who see Mosiah Priority and still totally believe in the Book of Mormon's divine origins. It just means maybe Joseph Smith had a bigger hand in shaping the story than we thought.
So where does that leave Joseph Smith? Is he a translator? An author? Or some combo deal?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And Metcalfe seems to be leaning pretty hard toward Joseph Smith as the main author, not just some guy relaying words.
And that's where those missing 116 pages become a big deal, right?
Huge deal. Metcalfe's argument is that losing them basically forced Joseph Smith to change his whole game plan, and that could explain some of these weird inconsistencies we're talking about.
It's like a missing piece of a puzzle, for sure. But okay, let's get back to those word clues we were talking about earlier. You know, the whole therefore versus wherefore thing.
Ah, yeah. That small but mighty detail.
It's crazy how a little word switch can reveal so much.
Like a linguistic fingerprint.
Well,
Metcalfe's analysis shows that Joseph Smith's word choices changed over time, and the Book of Mormon reflects those same changes.
okay, but couldn't that just be language naturally evolving? Like a writer's style changing over time?
Sure, that's possible. But here's the thing. Metcalfe doesn't stop there. He goes and compares the Book of Mormon to other stuff Joseph Smith wrote around the same time.
Like his revelations and that Bible translation he was working on?
You got it. And the crazy part is, he finds the same pattern. That therefore to wherefore shift shows up consistently in everything, and it lines up perfectly with that Mosiah priority order.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just some random thing. It's like a deliberate pattern across all his work. That makes a strong case for Joseph Smith's, unique writing voice.
Exactly. Like the language of the Book of Mormon is woven with how Joseph Smith himself used language. It's like his linguistic DNA or something.
I can see how this could be kind of unsettling for some folks, though. It definitely shakes things up a bit in terms of how we traditionally view the Book of Mormon.
I get that for sure. But I think it's also good to be open to exploring these questions, to kind of embrace the Book of Mormon's complexity.
Right. It's not about trying to disprove anyone's beliefs.
It's about understanding the Book of Mormon better, engaging with it on a different level, and not shying away from tough questions.
And speaking of tough questions,
Yeah.
this Mosiah priority theory really makes you think about the whole idea of translation, doesn't it?
Totally. I mean, the traditional way of looking at it is that Joseph Smith was like a conduit, just receiving and passing along words from those golden plates. But this theory paints a much more dynamic human picture.
Right, like maybe translation wasn't just about words, but also about interpretation, adaptation, maybe even inspiration coming from Joseph Smith's own experiences.
Exactly. And then there's the memory thing.
Oh, right. Some say Joseph Smith maybe memorized parts of what he was translating, especially those Bible verses.
Yeah. It's a decent theory, but Metcalfe's not convinced.
Why not?
Well, he points out that a lot of those Bible quotes in the Book of Mormon aren't just the same words as the King James Version, but they have the same punctuation, even the italics.
Wait, hold on, italics. You're kidding, right? Who can memorize italics?
Right. That's Metcalfe's point. It's super unlikely. So he thinks it makes way more sense that Joseph actually had a King James Bible right there with him, looking at it while he translated, not just going off memory.
So maybe he was using the King James Bible at first, and then when he lost the 116 pages, he had to rely more on his own knowledge of the Bible. And that's where we get these inconsistencies Metcalfe's talking about.
Now you're getting it. It all starts to connect.
Which takes us back to that author versus translator debate. If Joseph Smith was drawing on the King James Version, plus his own writing style, plus who knows what else, Where do you draw the line between translation and valak?
Well, writing your own story, it gets pretty blurry, that's for sure. And that's why this is all so interesting. It pushes us to rethink our ideas about how Scripture comes to be, about inspiration, about the human side of divine revelation, all of it.
It's a good reminder that even the most sacred texts, they have a story behind them, a history. Real people were involved.
Absolutely. And those stories are important. They help us understand more deeply. They make us think.
Man, this is seriously mind-blowing.
We've definitely gone down some rabbit holes, that's for sure, challenging some traditional views of the Book of Mormon and all that.
For sure. But before we wrap this up, we've got to acknowledge that there are some pretty solid counter-arguments to Mosiah Priority out there. Not everyone's on board with Metcalfe's ideas, and they've got some good points.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of scholars and believers, too, they stick with that traditional idea. The Book of Mormon is a straight-up translation of an ancient record. End of story. And they've got some pretty convincing ways to explain away those inconsistencies we've been talking about.
Yeah, like some point out that the Book of Mormon itself says there were a bunch of different writers, right? Nephi, Jacob, Mormon, Moroni, the whole crew, each with their own style, their own voice.
Exactly. And maybe those different voices are what explain those shifts in language, not just Joseph Smith's writing style evolving over time.
So instead of Joseph Smith's fingerprints, it's more like the fingerprints of those original writers coming through.
Right, like a literary choir, you know. And then there's the whole translation thing itself.
Yeah.
Even if we're cool with the idea of an ancient record, translating it into English, that's not a simple task.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that Joseph Smith's own way of using language, his way of thinking, it might have kind of shaped how he interpreted and wrote down the original text.
Totally. Translation's not just swapping words one-to-one. There's a lot of interpretation involved, shades of meaning and all that.
And let's not forget the big one for a lot of believers, divine inspiration. Even if Joseph Smith wasn't just passively translating, God could still be guiding the whole process, right?
Oh, absolutely. That's a core belief for many. Inspiration working through human beings. God using imperfect people to do amazing things.
So maybe Mosiah Priority doesn't completely rule out God's hand in it all. It just offers a different way of understanding how it happened. Maybe a more give and take kind of thing between God and Joseph Smith.
A partnership, maybe. A
Yeah.
collaboration.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we've looked at arguments for and against Mosiah Priority. We've weighed the evidence. But some of you listening might be thinking, what's the point of all of this? Does it really matter?
I think it does matter because it makes us engage with the Book of Mormon differently. It's not just accepting everything on the surface. It's going deeper, wrestling with the tough stuff.
Like we've been peeling back layers, finding all this depth and nuance we might not have noticed before.
Exactly. And it pushes us to think about our own ideas about Scripture, about Revelation. Are they fixed and set in stone, or are they something more dynamic, more alive?
It's like an invitation to think critically about our faith, to ask those hard questions and be open to seeing things in a new light.
And at the end of the day, I think it shows us that the Book of Mormon, well, it's got a story behind it, a history. Real people with their own experiences and perspectives were involved.
It didn't just magically appear, you know.
Right. And understanding that history, that human element, it actually makes the text richer, more meaningful.
So what do we do with all this now? What should our listeners who've been hanging out with us this whole time, what should they take away?
Keep that curiosity alive. Keep asking questions. Be open to different viewpoints.
Don't be scared to explore those tough spots, even if they challenge what you thought you knew.
Because the search for truth, it's a journey. It's not about reaching some final destination.
And on that journey, you're going to hit bumps, you're going to have doubts, you're going to run into ideas that make you rethink everything.
But that's what makes it so exciting. It's in that wrestling, that questioning, that searching that we really grow.
If Mosiah Priority has shown us anything, it's that the Book of Mormon is way more than just a simple text. It's complex, it's multi-layered, it deserves to be studied deeply and thought about carefully.
And it's a text that keeps sparking debate, inspiring new ideas, making us stretch our understanding of faith, of revelation, of that human search for truth we all go through.
So we're sending you off with a challenge. Dive into the source material yourselves. See what Metcalfe's saying. Look at the arguments for and against. Then make up your own mind.
Ask yourself, what does this all mean for my own faith? For how I see the Book of Mormon?
It's been an awesome deep dive, folks. Thanks for coming along with us as we explored Mosiah Priority and all the crazy questions it raises.
Keep searching, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
If you find value in this exploration, please like, share, follow, and consider becoming a subscriber. Your contributions help keep these conversations going and allows us to maintain the highest quality production. You can find all the details at studyfaithwithai.com. Thank you for being part of this journey.